Have you ever been afraid of being happy? That feeling that, at the exact moment when everything seems to be falling into place, something invisible starts to crumble everything around you. As if life had an unwritten rule: when things are too good, it's because something bad is about to happen. If you've ever felt this way, stay with me until the end. What you're about to discover now may surprise you. This channel is not just about stories. It's about hidden codes that are behind the reality you live in. And perhaps, without realizing it, you have been trying to decipher them for years. Here, each case is a key, a clue, a mirror of what you may also be experiencing. Today, what you are about to hear seems impossible. But when you understand the universal laws, the impossible becomes just misunderstood. She smiled on the outside, but inside she felt the chill of uncertainty. Every time something good happened, it was as if a silent shadow was already lurking. The promotion at work, it didn't last long. The new love, it ended without explanation. Her inner peace, it dissolved with the next crisis. It was as if her vibration was conditioned not to sustain goodness. And without understanding why, she began to sabotage herself, to distrust happiness, to reject her own success before she even lost it. But what if this isn't bad luck? What if these ups and downs are just manifestations of something bigger, deeper, and more spiritual? The truth is that there is an invisible force shaping everything. Your feelings, your achievements, your downfalls. And this force has a name. It is one of the most misunderstood universal laws, and at the same time, one of the most powerful. Law of rhythm. This law explains why so many people live on an emotional, financial, and even spiritual roller coaster. Why it feels like you're stuck in cycles that repeat themselves, even when you try to change. Maybe what's creating your reality isn't just what you think, but what you feel when things finally start to work out. Because if deep down you believe that this won't last, your energy begins to vibrate in tune with loss, even if you want it to last. Have you ever experienced this? Have you ever felt like happiness scares you more than pain? That when everything is going too well, your heart closes instead of opening? Maybe you are being guided by a vibrational rhythm that you don't understand. A hidden code inscribed in your energy field that needs to be deciphered. In this video, you will understand how this code works, how the law of rhythm is present in everything from the cycle of the tides to the cycles of your mind, how it connects with the law of attraction, the power of the subconscious, and the vibration you emit without realizing it. Because there is only one truth. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are ready to receive. And sometimes we are not ready for good. Not because we do not deserve it, but because we cannot sustain the frequency that good demands. What follows will reveal what happened to her, and perhaps to you too. Because understanding this law could be the key to stopping yourself from falling every time you start to rise. Understanding the law of rhythm is not just a spiritual concept. It is a reconnection with what you have felt but did not know how to name. It is recognizing that the ups and downs are not punishments from the universe, but pulses of existence, and that the secret is not in avoiding the fall, but in learning to fall with awareness and rise with intention. When she realized this, something inside her calmed down. As if, for the first time, she had found the map of a territory that previously seemed chaotic. And perhaps, at this moment, this map is beginning to take shape for you too. If this topic resonates with you, leave a comment below with what has touched you the most so far. Have you ever experienced something similar? Have you ever felt like life was knocking you down just when you were starting to trust it? Your story could be the key that someone else needs to read to recognize themselves and free themselves. This space is an exchange, and each comment helps create a community of people who are awakening together. And if this content brought you clarity, comfort, or even a thrill of recognition, leave a like. It's not just a button. It's a signal to the algorithm that this topic matters and deserves to be delivered to more people who need to hear it. Your like has a real impact. And of course, if you feel that this type of conversation needs to continue in your life, subscribe to the channel. Here, with each video, we open another window to understand the mysteries of the mind, soul, and reality. Your presence here is what makes this journey possible. Now, come back with me. Because what you're about to hear next is the part no one tells you, and maybe it's exactly what you need to know right now. She could never seize the moment. When something good finally happened, it wasn't joy that rose in her chest, but a silent, almost suffocating fear. As if life was laughing behind the curtains, ready to pull the rug out from under her. That long-awaited promotion was accompanied by a crisis the next day. A new love blossomed, and when she truly gave herself to it, it simply disappeared. Her finances seemed to stabilize, until a forgotten debt, a cruel, unforeseen event, took it all away. No matter how hard she tried, how grateful, positive, spiritual she was, the pattern was the same. Up, down, hope, ruin. She began to think that there was something wrong with her, that maybe she didn't deserve it, that it was some kind of karma. And little by little, she developed a fear that almost no one understands, the fear of being okay. Because for her, being okay was the harbinger of the next downfall. This fear infiltrated everything. In her smiles, in her plans, even in the small joys. She sabotaged happy moments, turned down opportunities, and distanced herself from good people. As if a part of her wanted to stop suffering before it even arrived. It was tiring, exhausting, living at war with her own peace. Until, on a spiritual retreat, surrounded by silence, nature, and people who also carried invisible pain, she heard something that shook her to the core, but this time in a different way. Everything that goes up must come down. But what matters is how you go down. It sounded like a riddle, but it was as if the universe had finally whispered the truth behind the chaos. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject, because this phrase is not just pretty or philosophical. It is a key to understanding something that is behind the scenes of reality. There is a hidden truth in the way energy moves in our lives. Nothing is linear, nothing is fixed. There is a rhythm, an invisible flow that connects decisions, emotions, beliefs, and experiences. And when we ignore this rhythm, when we try to cling to the peak, freeze happiness, control every outcome, life responds with resistance. Because everything in the universe vibrates in waves, even light moves in frequency. The problem is not in the movement, but in how much we cling to the peak or resist the fall. This young woman didn't understand it right away. But that sentence planted something. For the first time, she considered the possibility that the pain that always followed her was not a punishment, but an invitation. A cycle, yes, but not a cycle of destruction. A cycle of learning, transformation, expansion. And that perhaps what hurt the most was not what happened, but the attempt to stop the inevitable, to hold back what needed to flow. Because when you begin to accept that even the descent is part of growth, something changes. You no longer fear the void, because you know that it is there that the seed prepares to be reborn. It is in this place of darkness that the truth begins to be seen clearly. This realization was the beginning of a real change in her life. Not a miraculous sudden change, as if the pain had disappeared, but a new way of looking at one's own cycles, and understanding that living in harmony with the rhythm is much easier than living trying to control the next step. That falling does not mean failure, it means flow. And that true power lies in those who learn to descend, with awareness, with presence, with faith that the next movement is already on its way. Comment there, I'm on this journey too. Because only those who experience it firsthand understand the weight and the relief. of finally beginning to understand. Let's delve even deeper. Because maybe you're seeing yourself in parts of this story. Maybe what she experienced isn't so far from what's happening inside you. That strange feeling that, no matter how much things change on the outside, inside everything seems to repeat itself. The same frustration, the same fear, the same endings. As if something is pulling you back to a point you swore you'd overcome. It could be in your love life, your finances, your health, your spirituality. You take 2 steps forward, and suddenly, the universe seems to pull everything back. And that's tiring. It hurts. Sometimes you even feel like giving up trying. What if I told you that this isn't about punishment? That it's not because you're not doing it right, or because you haven't learned your lesson yet. There's a hidden truth behind the scenes of your journey. Repetition may not be a mistake. It may be a revelation. A mirror that shows you not what's wrong with you, but what's vibrating inside you, silently, stronger than your conscious desires. And that changes everything. Because as long as you believe that you're being chased by bad luck or punished for some failure, you'll keep trying to fight against something that's actually asking to be understood. And here comes something that many people ignore: the influence of vibrational mindset. The way you feel when you are well can be the trigger for what happens next. If happiness causes anxiety, if success triggers fear, if peace seems dangerous, it is as if you are sending signals to the field around you that what you have asked for is not so safe after all. And the universe, obedient and vibrational, responds. Not to your request, but to your actual frequency. It is subtle. But this is what creates patterns. What most people don't understand is that these patterns are not visible on the surface. They live in old memories, in inherited beliefs, in decisions that were made when you didn't even know what you were deciding. They live in the vibration that sustains your life. Therefore, changing the external without looking within only generates frustration. Because the cycle does not follow logic, it follows rhythm. And the rhythm of your life is a direct reflection of your emotional field. This is one of the most powerful revelations anyone can have. And perhaps, if you have come this far, your soul is taking you to exactly this point. The recognition that what repeats itself is not punishing you. It is trying to show you something about yourself, something about the way you feel, react, vibrate. And it is at this point that true transformation begins. When you stop blaming yourself for not being able to sustain the good and begin to understand why it scares you. Because only those who look courageously at their own cycles discover the exact point where they can begin to break them. Comment, that makes sense to me. Because sometimes, putting into words what we feel is already a giant step towards change. Now, pay attention to this. Because this is where the key starts to turn within those who are ready to see beyond the obvious. We grow up believing that success is linear, that peace is permanent, and that happiness, once achieved, should never leave its place. But this is one of the most painful illusions that we are taught. Because the universe, by its essence, is movement. Nothing static remains. Alive. Everything pulsates, breathes, expands, and contracts. And this is exactly where the law of rhythm comes in. It is not a belief. It is an invisible structure that governs reality, from the cycles of nature to human emotions. It is in the tide that rises and falls, in the moon that fills and wanes, in the heart that beats, in the lungs that inhale and exhale air. It is even in the silence, which only exists because there was sound before. This law says, everything that goes up comes down. Everything that begins one day ends, but not as punishment. As a necessary flow, energy needs to move. And when you try to hold on, force, freeze a state, even if it is a good state, you enter into war with the very rhythm of creation. That is what she understood. The problem was not falling. The problem was the fear of falling. The struggle not to lose. what had been achieved, the attempt to hold on to what by nature needed to pass. And this happens to so many people, because we have been conditioned to associate going downhill with failure. We think that going backwards is a sign of weakness, that slowing down is a sign of loss, that feeling sad is a problem. But it is not. What causes suffering is not the cycle, it is the resistance to the cycle. It is wanting to always be on top, without accepting the need for retreat, for pause, for silence. It is at this moment that the mind panics, because it wants constancy in a universe that pulsates. And the more you resist, the stronger life pulls, the more intense the breakdown, the harder it is to start over. It was at this point that she chose a new stance. Instead of fearing the cycle, she decided to dance with it. She understood that each phase had a purpose. That emptiness was not a punishment, it was a womb. That the fall was not the end, it was the impulse for the next ascent. She began to observe her own internal movements with more compassion. She began to stop demanding stability where the flow called for fluidity. She accepted that there are moments of harvest, yes, but also of preparation, of waiting, of diving. And do you know what started to change? It wasn't the world around her. It was the way she experienced the ups and downs. She stopped getting desperate when her energy levels dropped. She stopped sabotaging herself when everything was going well for fear of losing it. She learned to flow, and that made even the difficult moments feel lighter. Because now she knew everything was okay. It was part of her life. And what had previously seemed unstable was just the natural rhythm of life. This change in mindset is the beginning of a profound transformation. Because when you understand the rhythm, you start to live more consciously, to make more aligned choices, to respect your own cycles. And in this place, something reorganizes itself. Anxiety diminishes, guilt disappears, self-demand dissolves. Because you understand that you no longer need to fight against time, nor prove yourself all the time. You just need to learn to surf the waves. Because as they say, those who try to freeze the sea drown, but those who learn to dance with the waves. Even weatherstorms. Comment below, learning to surf the rhythm. Because this is a decision that changes everything, even when nothing changes on the outside. And it is with this awareness that I want to take you to the next point on this journey. Today, she continues to have ups and downs. The tides still change, the winds still blow in unexpected directions, but the downs no longer paralyze her. They don't hurt the same way. They don't scare her like they used to, because now she sees the cycle differently. She realized that she no longer needs to react with despair whenever something goes wrong. She no longer needs to hide when she feels her energy is low, because something inside her has changed. She understood that everything is rhythm, that even chaos obeys an intelligence, that emptiness has meaning and silence carries answers. She learned to talk to her own soul in moments of falling, listening to the signs that I previously ignored. She stopped resisting life's pauses. And there, in that space where before there was only fear, a different kind of courage began to be born. A calm courage. The kind that doesn't shout, doesn't need to prove anything, but knows everything passes, everything moves. And what seems like the end can be just the beginning of something more aligned. Before, she interpreted the highs as definitive achievements and the lows as punishments. Today, she sees both as messengers. The peak is not a prize, it is a phase. The fall is not a mistake, it is another phase. And between these two extremes, there is a vast field of learning. It was in this field that she began to create with more awareness. Because when you stop despairing about the movement, you start to have the energy to understand what it is trying to show you. That's how she began to use her descent as a springboard for the next climb. She stopped asking herself, "Why is this happening to me?" and began to reflect, What is this trying to tell me? This simple shift in perspective changes everything. Because when pain becomes a question, it can also become an answer. And it was there, in that space of listening, that she discovered the strength she always had, but never knew how to access. Because she was too busy trying to stay in control. And it's not that the challenges have disappeared, but now she sees them as part of something bigger, as rhythms that warn, that clean, that reposition. And that's why, even when everything seems to be falling apart, she doesn't get lost anymore, because she trusts. Not in an external certainty, but in the rhythm of life itself. A rhythm that doesn't make mistakes, that doesn't punish, that only reflects. And by reflecting, it teaches. What was once the breaking point became the starting point. What was once fear became presence. And the peace she had been searching for outside began to emerge inside. Because she understood that the secret is not to control the sea, it is to learn to sail with it. And no one can take that away. Life doesn't want to knock you down. It wants to teach you to fly with the wind. And when you understand this, even the headwind starts to blow in your favor, because everything changes. When you change the way you look. If you've made it this far, it's because some part of this message touched you deeply. And that's what matters most, feeling that you're not alone on this journey. That there's someone on the other side of the screen saying what you may have already felt, but didn't know how to put into words. If this content helped you see things differently, if it brought clarity or simply made you breathe easier, leave a like. It's a subtle but powerful way of saying, "This helped me, keep it up." And if you want to continue accessing content like this, where we go beyond the surface and talk about what really matters, subscribe to the channel here. Because there is a lot for us to explore together. Each video is a step in this journey of awareness, healing, and transformation. And tell me in the comments, write "I'm with you" until the end. That way I'll know that you felt all of this with me, and that our connection is real. Now, there is a video here that complements this subject, and goes even deeper into things that we only begin to see when we are ready. Click and continue with me there. The journey is still just beginning.